David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a review which I was rather torn about. Part of me was very curious about this low-cost offering, and part of me didn't want to give this pen any additional exposure because essentially it is a blatant copy of one of the more beloved fountain pens on the market today. The pen is the Jinhao 90, which bears some striking resemblances to the iconic Lamy 2000. Now, whether a pen is inspired by another or a blatant ripoff is a question that has long been debated in the pen world. I've even done a video on the subject. I am generally opposed to supporting companies who steal the designs of others, but there could be a lot of gray in that argument. It's not one that is always black and white. There are some folks who don't mind the copies. They see them as low-cost alternatives. I have typically shied away from them. A few weeks ago, I polled viewers asking you if you wanted to see this review, and around 60% said that you did. So I decided to go ahead and do this, albeit somewhat reluctantly. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Jinhao 80. I'm going to talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about this pen. I'll compare it to the Lamy 2000 so you can see the similarities and differences for yourself. I'll show some size comparisons and provide a writing sample. I did purchase these pens myself. There were two for $16, so essentially they're $8. Now, how does the $8 Jinhao stack up to the $200 Lamy 2000? In order to find out, please join me over here at camera 2. So here is the Jinhao 80 and the Lamy 2000. Now, here's a little quiz. Which is the Lamy? It's rather difficult to tell. They do feel a little bit different and the weight is different as well, but you can see that the designs are extremely similar. Have you made your choice? Don't just guess one or the other. Really try to make a choice. It's not easy, is it? Well, this is the Lamy and this is the Jinhao. So let's actually start by comparing the weights of these two. For the Jinhao, it's coming in at 19.5 grams. And then for the Lamy 2000, it's coming in at just under 26 grams. The plastic is a little bit thicker and heavier, as well as there's more metal in the Lamy, and that accounts for the additional weight. So let's start by comparing the exteriors of these pens, which hold most of the similarities. First of all, we have the material. The Lamy is made from Macrolon, which is a high-quality polycarbonate. It has a nice warmth to the material, and then there's actually a texture that's buffed into the material. The Jinhao is made from a cheaper plastic, and I know it's very difficult to see here, but the texture on the exterior of this pen is simply part of the molded plastic rather than being ground into the material. The dimensions on these pens are virtually identical on the outside, except for the Jinhao is about 1 millimeter longer. There is a slight difference in the top of the cap. The Lamy is a little bit more polished, as you can see here, and then the Jinhao has more of a matte finish. At first glance, the clips look identical. On the Lamy, it is engraved. Actually, here, we'll see if we can get it in the light. Yeah, you can see it. It is engraved with Lamy, and then on the underside of the clip, it's really hard to see, but it does say Germany on the underside of the clip, as you can see here. And then on the Jinhao, there is no markings and there is nothing on the underside of the clip, but they both still have that spring mechanism to them. The biggest difference on the barrel is that the Lamy is a piston filler and has a piston knob. There is a piston knob here on the back. And the Jinhao is a cartridge converter pen, so there isn't a piston knob. Since the Lamy does a great job of hiding the piston, visually they look identical. Then on the back of the barrel, for both of these, there are these metal inserts. I know it's very hard to see, but that it's hard. Maybe you can see it a little bit, but on the Lamy, it does have that brushed treatment on it, and then that brushed treatment is missing from the Jinhao version. Okay, while the exteriors of these pens are almost identical, the main differences come into play once you remove the caps. They both snap off right away. And you can see the main difference here. The Lamy has a metal section as well as an ink window. And then they also have a ring here that's used for the capping mechanism. And also a hooded nib. Then on the Jinhao, it is a plastic section. There is a ring here at the back. There is no ink window, and there's a little ridge at the end of the section, which is used in the capping mechanism. And you can see here that the nib is not hooded, but it's designed very similarly to the Lamy nibs. There are a couple of differences. Let me actually show you. This is a Lamy All-Star, and that the nibs have a slight difference in dimensions, but if you look, they both have very similar feeds, and they both have kind of that clip-on look to them and that clip-on design. I will say, though, when you look at it in profile, that the section on the Jinhao is slightly thicker because you could see a little bit more of the section than you can, or I would see a little bit more of the feed than you can on the All-Star. Then you can actually see on the Jinhao also, if I get here really close, that it does have the Jinhao name on it and their emblem, which is two men riding a cart pulled by a horse. And you can see here that this is a fine nib. I believe that these were only available in fine. I bought this as a set of 2 pens. This one was included as well as this one, which is the same model, but then it has a black clip and the end of piece is black. And then also the ring is black here. But other than that, everything is the same. But basically it's a full black model of the pen. In regard to some size comparisons, this is what it looks like with that Lamy All-Star. Then there is a Lamy Ion, and then there is a Lamy Studio. In regard to some Jinhao pens, this is it with a Jinhao X750, and then here it is with an X450, and here it is with a shark that got chewed up a little bit by a puppy a number of years ago. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Studio. And then here it is with the X450 from Jinhao, and here it is with the X750. Here we go with the writing sample for these Jinhao. And this is the Jinhao 80. And this is a fine stainless steel nib. And the ink that I'm using today is from 3 Oysters. And it is their EUM. E-U-M. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a nice darker red. This is what it looks like in comparison to Franklin Christoph's Urushi red. And then this is the Pilot Iroshizuku Momiji. This is what the ink bottle looks like. The 3 Oysters makes a nice variety of ink. If you don't have any 3 Oysters in your collection, they're well worth checking out. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. That this fine nib isn't that bad. I mean, for me, as not a huge fan of fine nibs, I guess that's a decent compliment. The pen overall does feel a little lightweight, but then again, it's only $8. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here. The ink flow feels decent for this fine. And in regard to reverse writing, it's very scratchy. It's not really its thing. And then in regard to some fast writing, it does have a fair amount of feedback to it. It's not necessarily smooth, but it's not too bad. And the feed keeps up just fine. Okay, what are my overall thoughts on the Jinhao 80? This pen cost $8. It was 2 pens for $16. If the Lamy 2000 didn't exist and they produced this pen for $8, I would be blown away. The overall construction and quality of the pen, is decent. It's high for being produced under $10. I just wish that the amount of effort that they went into creating this pen went into creating something new and unique of their own. And yes, I know that Jinhao does have some pens which are unique in design, but a large chunk of their business is reliant upon the creative work of others, which I don't feel really good about. If you don't mind that aspect of this pen and that company, then this is an outstanding value for the price. So my only really knocks on this pen are the aspects of the design, not the quality or the overall performance. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.